My husband left me on my birthday to spend the whole day with his ex-wife. So, I presented his replacement at his mother's funeral. Oh my God, you guys. Imagine dedicating 7 years of your life to someone, only to realize on your 30th birthday that you're nothing but an afterthought to their ex-wife. Because that's exactly what happened to me, and it set off a chain reaction that ended in a public showdown I will never forget. It was my 30th, a milestone, right? And my husband, Jerome, had promised me the world. He said he'd taken the day off work, made reservations at this amazing steakhouse I'd been dying to try, and that we'd do whatever I wanted from sunrise to sunset. I woke up buzzing, made a special breakfast while he was showering, feeling so hopeful. Then his phone rang. I glanced at it, Natalie. His ex-wife. My stomach dropped. Their divorce was 5 years ago, no kids. Why was she calling? Jerome answered, and I heard him say, "I'll be right there, Natalie needs me." He walked out, already making excuses. Her father had a heart attack, she had no one else. But I knew Natalie. I'd heard about her father's heart attacks twice a year, every time she needed attention. I told Jerome, her father has a heart attack every time she wants something. But he insisted this time it was real. Serious. He swore he'd be back in an hour. Just drop her at the hospital, make sure she was okay. We'd still have our whole birthday, just a little later. I watched him leave at 8 a.m., wearing the shirt I'd bought him for our anniversary, feeling a chill despite the warm morning. I was still in my birthday dress, sitting there, numb. An hour passed, then 2, then 4. At noon, a text. "Jerome, Natalie's really upset, can't leave her alone. Dad's stable, but she needs emotional support." I called him, a tight knot forming in my chest. In the background, I heard Natalie laugh. Laughing. About something on TV. My voice was shaky. "Are you watching TV at the hospital?" Jerome mumbled about needing her insurance papers, so they'd gone back to her apartment. Her apartment. The excuses kept coming. 2 p.m., Dad discharged, needed a ride. 4 p.m., Natalie needed help with meds. 6 p.m., she was too upset to cook, so they were grabbing dinner. By 8 p.m., our reservation long gone, he texted, "Natalie had a panic attack, I can't leave." I spent my entire 30th birthday alone. My husband playing caretaker to his ex-wife, who, let's be real, was probably faking everything. Jerome stumbled in at midnight, found me in the dark, still in my dress. He said he was sorry, but emergencies happen, and I should understand. He even said Natalie had no one else, and he'd promised to always be there. Then the kicker, he actually told me I was being selfish, making someone else's family crisis about my birthday. My blood ran cold. He bought Natalie flowers at the hospital gift shop. I got nothing. The next day, a mutual friend of ours, Jerome's friend actually, spilled the truth. Natalie's father hadn't even been to the hospital. Heartburn. From pizza. Natalie, of course, called Jerome anyway, crying, knowing he'd drop everything. This wasn't new. Our anniversary, Valentine's Day, Christmas morning, always an emergency only Jerome could solve. And then there was Linda, Jerome's mother. She adored Natalie. Always had. She thought it was sweet they were still friends. Linda, who always preferred Natalie to me, would constantly mention how pretty and successful Natalie was. She'd invite Natalie to family dinners, seat her right next to Jerome, while I was stuck at the end of the table, an afterthought. She'd show off their wedding photos, sighing, those were happier times. That's when I reconnected with Nathan, my ex-boyfriend before Jerome. Nathan was handsome, successful, and always treated me like a queen. We started with coffee, just catching up. But Nathan remembered everything. My coffee order, my favorite flowers, my middle name. He listened when I talked instead of scrolling his phone. He was also ridiculously photogenic. 3 months later, the rug was pulled out from under us. Linda was diagnosed with terminal cancer, 6 weeks left. The family was devastated. Jerome spent every day at the hospital. Linda, even in her final moments, kept asking Jerome if he regretted choosing me over Natalie. She'd hold Natalie's hand, call her the daughter she wished for. My heart broke every time. The funeral was set for a Saturday. Jerome, red-eyed and heartbroken, gave a speech about what an amazing mother Linda had been. I sat in the front row, a black dress, looking appropriately sad. And then he walked in. Nathan, expensive suit, looking like he'd stepped out of a magazine. He sat next to me, took my hand. Jerome stopped mid-speech, his voice catching. Nathan whispered something in my ear. I managed a tiny, bitter smile. Jerome stammered through the rest of his eulogy, his eyes glued to Nathan, comforting me. The reception was at Linda's house, stuffy, crowded, smelling of old furniture and casserole. Jerome stood by the dining table, shaking hands mechanically, his eulogy notes still wadded in his hand. Every few seconds, his eyes darted from me to Nathan, then back, like he was trying to solve a puzzle. Natalie, ever present, hovered at Jerome's elbow, touching his arm, whispering. She kept trying to block his view of me, but he'd shift, looking around her. Nathan stood beside me, his hand resting lightly on my lower back. Linda's friends kept glancing at us. I heard one whisper, "What a handsome couple." Jerome's face went white. He heard it too. Then Nina, Jerome's sister, appeared, gesturing toward the kitchen. I followed her. She closed the door. Linda's magnets were still on the fridge, her grocery list still there. Nina crossed her arms, her eyes so like Jerome's when he was suspicious, bored into me. "Is Nathan your boyfriend?" Her voice was quiet but sharp. She knew. She was testing me. "We've been seeing each other for 3 months, I admitted. Nina's eyebrows shot up. 3 months, she repeated, doing the math. "Yes," I said, the same 3 months Jerome spent running to Natalie every time she called with some fake emergency. Nina's face softened. She looked at the floor. She'd seen Linda seat Natalie next to Jerome for years. She'd heard Linda constantly compare me to Natalie, always making me sound like the wrong choice. Her voice dropped. "I understand why you'd look for someone who appreciated you," she said. "It doesn't make what you did at the funeral right, but I get it." The door burst open. Jerome. His face was beet red, jaw clenched. He told Nina to leave. She hesitated, squeezed my arm, and walked out. Jerome slammed the door, dishes rattling. "Who is Nathan?" he demanded, his voice low, shaking with suppressed rage. I leaned against the counter. "He's someone who remembers my coffee order." Jerome's face twisted in confusion. "He also knows my middle name and my favorite flowers." "That's not what I asked," he roared, then lowered his voice again. "How long has this been going on? Are you cheating on me?" "I've been seeing Nathan since my birthday," I told him. His mouth opened, ready to launch into a defense of Natalie's needs that day. I cut him off. Natalie's father never went to the hospital. His big emergency was heartburn. From pizza, just like I told you it would be. Jerome's face went from red to almost purple. Natalie was in crisis. She needed support. I laughed. A harsh, bitter sound. "Natalie's been in crisis every Christmas, every Valentine's Day, every anniversary for 5 years. He started to argue, but his voice trailed off. Something shifted in his eyes. He was finally seeing it. I pushed past him, back into the living room. Nathan was by the fireplace, talking to some relatives, jacket unbuttoned, looking completely at ease. Linda's church friend was asking him about his work. He said finance, and she made impressed noises. "Such a handsome couple," she gushed, looking at me with an approval Linda had never shown. Jerome walked out of the kitchen and stopped dead when he heard her. Another relative asked how long Nathan and I had known each other. Nathan smiled. "Years ago, before she met Jerome. We reconnected recently. Picked up right where we left off." I felt Jerome's eyes burning into me from across the room. Nathan put his arm around my waist, and I leaned into him, just slightly. It felt real, but also like a performance. I wanted Jerome to see exactly what he'd been missing while he played hero to his ex-wife. Suddenly, Natalie was there, asking Jerome, "Are you okay? You look so upset." Her voice was loud, concerned, practiced. She offered to take him home. Her hand went to his arm. Head tilted, fake worry etched on her face. Jerome pulled his arm away. "I need to talk to my wife," he said, his voice flat. Natalie's face registered actual surprise. He was brushing her off. "I just wanted to help," she stammered. "You've helped enough," he said, an edge to his voice I'd never heard him use with her. Her eyes widened. She looked between us, trying to compute. It hit me then. Jerome was finally seeing through her act. He was too scared of losing me to fall for her manipulation anymore. She stood there, mouth slightly open, then turned and walked toward the kitchen. The whole room had gone quiet, watching. The reception wound down. Nathan opened the car door for me, his leather seats smelling new. He walked around to the driver's side and before getting in, leaned in and kissed my cheek. Soft, genuine, but deliberate. He knew Jerome was watching. I didn't look back as Nathan started the car. I could feel Jerome's eyes following us down the street. My hands were shaking. Nathan dropped me home. I walked into the house I shared with Jerome and started pulling clothes from the closet, suitcases from the garage, shoes, toiletries, my grandmother's jewelry. I was folding a sweater when I heard Jerome's car. His footsteps. He appeared in the doorway, eyes red. "What are you doing?" His voice cracked. "I'm packing." He came into the room. "We need to talk. I know I messed up with your birthday, but we can fix this." I kept folding. "My name," he said louder each time. Finally, I looked at him. "This isn't about one birthday, Jerome. This is about 5 years of coming second to Natalie. 5 years of your mother treating me like I wasn't good enough. 5 years of you calling me selfish when I asked for basic consideration." His face crumpled. "That's not fair. You're the one cheating. You're throwing away our marriage over one mistake. Natalie was just a friend. She needed help. You're making it into something it isn't." I pulled out my phone, opened the calendar app. For 2 years, I'd been keeping track. Every single time Jerome canceled our plans for Natalie, I showed him the screen. All those red, highlighted dates. Christmas morning, 2022. Natalie's burst pipes. Valentine's Day, 2023. Natalie's car wouldn't start. Our anniversary last year. Helping Natalie move furniture. My birthday. At least 15 other dates. All red. Jerome stared at the phone. His face went pale. I didn't realize it was that many times." "How could you not realize?" I asked, my voice rising. "I told you every single time Natalie was using you." He sank onto the bed, head in his hands. Tears streamed down his face. Maybe I let Natalie manipulate me too much. But I swear, I never had feelings for her. I never cheated. What you did, bringing Nathan to my mother's funeral, that was worse. I laughed, bitterly. Emotional abandonment counts as betrayal, Jerome, even if it's not physical. He started sobbing harder. "My mother just died. You humiliated me at her funeral, in front of everyone. Your mother spent 5 years humiliating me at every family gathering, and you said nothing." I shot back. "She showed people your wedding photos with Natalie. She seated Natalie next to you at dinners, while I sat at the end. She called Natalie the daughter she wished for. She was difficult, but she was still my mother. I understand that." I cried. "But you chose to let her treat me terribly, and you never once stood up for me." I zipped my suitcase. "I'm staying with Sabina for a while. We need space to figure out if this marriage can be saved." He grabbed the suitcase handle, wouldn't let go. "We can work through this. Just give me a chance. I'll do anything." I tugged. His grip was tight. "Let go, Jerome." He shook his head. "I love you. I can't lose you." I yanked harder. It came free. He stood blocking the doorway. I pushed past him. He grabbed my arm. "Don't touch me!" I snapped. He let go instantly. He followed me down the hall, still pleading. "I'll cut off contact with Natalie. I'll go to counseling. Whatever you need, I'll do it." I opened the front door, put the suitcase in my car. He stood on the porch, in the exact spot he'd watched me leave with Nathan hours earlier. He was still pleading as I backed out. I saw him in the rearview mirror, standing there alone as I drove away. Sabina's apartment smelled like red wine and Chinese takeout. She opened the door, took one look at my face and pulled me inside. I dropped my suitcase, sank onto her couch while she poured 2 huge glasses of wine. She sat across from me, waiting. I told her everything. The funeral, Nathan, Jerome's face, the fight, the calendar, all those red dates. Sabina listened, silent. When I finished, she took a long drink. "Jerome absolutely deserves consequences," she said firm. "Any husband who abandons his wife on her 30th birthday for his ex deserves whatever he gets." Then she leaned forward. But bringing Nathan to the funeral? That was brutal. Calculated. Public. Designed to hurt Jerome in front of his entire family, right after his mother died. I didn't deny it. She was right. It was supposed to hurt him, I said, as publicly as he hurt me privately all these years. Sabina nodded. "Do you actually have feelings for Nathan, or was he just a weapon you were using against Jerome?" I opened my mouth to answer and realized I didn't know. Everything with Nathan was so tangled up in my anger. He remembered my coffee order, but was that love, or just him being observant? He listened, but was I drawn to him, or just to someone who wasn't Jerome? I admitted I couldn't separate my feelings for Nathan from my need to prove Jerome wrong. Sabina said that was something I needed to figure out before making any permanent decisions. 2 days later, Nathan took me to dinner. He was sweet, attentive. He mentioned the funeral, and something in his expression made me uneasy. A flicker of satisfaction. Jerome's face when he saw us together? Priceless, he actually said. Priceless. Like he'd enjoyed humiliating Jerome. I watched him talk, his words kind, but his tone had this competitive edge. Like he'd won something. I started to wonder if Nathan had his own reasons for wanting to prove he was better than my husband. Maybe our whole relationship was built on competition and revenge, not genuine connection. Jerome called me 17 times over the next week. I blocked his number, but he found new ones. His messages swung wildly between apologies and accusations. "I'm sorry." Then an hour later, "You're throwing away 7 years over one bad birthday." I stopped reading. His brother, Stefano, called. Jerome was a mess, barely eating. "He loves you," Stefano said. "He made a mistake. Everyone makes mistakes. Are you really throwing away 7 years?" "Stefano," I said, "look at that calendar I sent Jerome. Count how many times your brother chose Natalie over me. Christmas morning, Valentine's Day, our anniversary, my birthday, 15 other dates. Would you accept that from your wife? Would you be okay with your wife abandoning you repeatedly for her ex-husband?" He went quiet. I didn't realize it was that many times. Jerome didn't either, I told him, because he never bothered to notice. Nina called the next day with a different perspective. She'd been thinking. She admitted she'd watched Jerome prioritize Natalie for years, always wondering why I put up with it. "Why didn't you say anything?" I asked, my voice tight. She sighed. Mom actively encouraged it. She used to tell Jerome Natalie was the one who got away. She'd say he owed Natalie friendship, even though the divorce was Natalie's choice. Nina's voice dropped. "Mom compared you unfavorably to Natalie constantly, not just at dinners, but in private with Jerome. She'd suggest he made a mistake marrying you. She'd say you weren't good enough." Nina felt guilty for staying silent, but Linda was their mother. It felt disloyal. It confirmed everything I'd suspected. Linda never wanted Jerome to marry me. And Jerome let her destroy our marriage because he couldn't stand up to his mother. 2 weeks after the funeral, Jerome's number rang. I'd unblocked it. He sounded uncertain. Natalie called. Another emergency. Car broke down. Needs a ride to work. Is it okay if I help her? I almost laughed. Jerome, you're a grown man. Make your own choices. But if you go running to Natalie again, you're proving everything I said about your priorities. He was quiet for a long moment. I'll tell Natalie to call someone else, he said. Okay, I said and hung up. An hour later, a text. I told Natalie to call a tow truck. She got angry, said I was abandoning her. I told her I can't keep helping with every emergency because it's damaging my marriage. I stared at the screen. For the first time in our marriage, he actually did it. He didn't rescue her. I didn't respond, but I saved that text. I met with a divorce attorney. The office was all gray carpets, diplomas. She asked about my marriage. How long? Kids? Property? I answered, feeling detached. She explained asset division. The house savings split down the middle. She asked if I wanted to divorce or separate. I don't know yet, I told her. She gave me paperwork. Walking out, everything felt real, final. I sat in my car and cried. 7 years. A life we built, even if it was broken. Throwing it all away felt huge. Scary. But staying felt impossible. Nathan called. I told him about the attorney. Good, he said. File for divorce as soon as possible. Jerome doesn't deserve another chance. Move in with me, we'll start fresh. His eagerness made me pull back. I needed space to figure out what I wanted. His voice changed. Are you seriously considering going back to Jerome? He'll just go back to his old patterns. You're making a mistake. I need to make my own choices, Nathan. That means space from everyone. Fine, he said, but his tone was anything but. His face, when we hung up, was pure disappointment. Did he care about me, or did he just want to win against Jerome? Jerome showed up at Sabina's on Saturday. She wouldn't let him in, but he left flowers, my favorite kind, the ones he always forgot. And a 3-page handwritten letter. He apologized for every time he chose Natalie. He listed them. Christmas, Valentine's Day, anniversary, my birthday. He admitted he'd been blind, dismissing my feelings, letting his mother disrespect me, calling me selfish. The last page said he wanted chance. He'd cut off Natalie. Marriage counseling. He loved me. He didn't want to lose me. I folded the letter. Told Sabina to tell him I got it, but no promises. Actions mattered more than words. Luciano, Jerome's coworker, called Monday. Natalie showed up at work that morning, demanding to know why Jerome was abandoning her. Said she needed support after losing Linda, who was like a mother. Luciano said Jerome actually told her their friendship was inappropriate, damaging his marriage, and he needed boundaries. Natalie cried, said he was choosing me over their friendship. Luciano said she left crying. Jerome looked shaken, but he didn't back down. This was huge. Jerome was finally seeing her. I agreed to coffee. He looked tired. He ordered my coffee without asking, he remembered. He showed me his blocked contacts, Natalie's number, a text he'd sent telling her not to contact him. He started individual therapy to understand why he let Natalie manipulate him, to see how his mother's cruelty was enabled by his silence. He seemed genuinely committed. But I told him, even with good intentions, I didn't know if I could trust him after years of feeling secondary. His eyes filled with tears. He understood. He'd do whatever it took, even if it took years. I told him I needed more time. He nodded. I met Nathan for lunch the next day. He'd picked the restaurant where we had our first date. He seemed pleased with himself. He ordered for both of us without asking, started talking about apartments he'd found for me. I told him I needed to slow down, think, not just run from Jerome to him. Nathan's smile faded. He asked what there was to think about. Jerome treated me like garbage for 5 years. I told him Jerome was making changes, blocking Natalie going to therapy. Nathan's face hardened. You're making a huge mistake. People like Jerome never change. He'll be great for a few months. Then the first time Natalie calls, crying, he'll be right back to his old patterns. I need to figure out my marriage without pressure from anyone, I said. He laughed. It wasn't a nice sound. I wasted 3 months being there for you, listening to you complain about Jerome, just so you could run back to him anyway. I stared at him. He'd never cared about what I wanted. He just wanted to win. I told him we needed to stop seeing each other. He called me stupid, said I was using him for attention. He threw money on the table, walked out. Other diners stared. I felt shaken. The man who seemed so understanding turned mean the second I didn't do what he wanted. 3 months after Linda's funeral, Jerome and I walked into our first marriage counseling session together. The therapist, a no-nonsense woman, asked why we were there. Jerome talked about his mistakes with Natalie. I talked about 5 years of feeling invisible. She listened, then said we'd both made choices that damaged our marriage. She looked at Jerome. Your pattern with Natalie was emotional abandonment. You acted like Natalie's husband instead of hers. His face went red. He'd never thought about it that way. Then she turned to me. Bringing Nathan to Linda's funeral was calculated public humiliation, designed for revenge, not resolution. I tried to defend myself. She cut me off. We're here to be honest. Do you want to rebuild this, or is too much damage done? Jerome wanted to try. I didn't know yet, but I was willing to see if therapy could help. We left that first session feeling raw, exposed, but also like someone had finally made us face the truth. 2 weeks later, Nina called. Natalie had contacted her, asking Nina to tell Jerome she was in crisis. Nina had told Natalie that Jerome was working on his marriage, that Natalie needed to respect his boundaries. Nina stayed firm. She even apologized for staying silent all those years while Linda favored Natalie. She admitted the whole family had enabled Jerome's behavior. The dynamics were shifting now. People were finally seeing it. 6 months after the funeral, Jerome and I moved back in together. We weren't fixed. Probably never would be completely, but we were more honest. Jerome hadn't had any contact with Natalie. He actively prioritized our marriage, remembering plans, asking about my day, remembering details. I still carried anger, but the therapist said that was normal. We were working through it. Our relationship felt different now. It was built on Jerome finally seeing me as his priority, and me learning to say what I needed before resentment boiled over. We started planning a small vow renewal. Just the two of us. No family, no big event. A private commitment that felt more real than our original wedding, where Linda had seated Natalie in the front row. Jerome suggested we write our own vows this time and actually mean them. I agreed, because I wanted promises based on who we actually were now, not who we'd pretended to be 7 years ago. What would you have done in my place? Or have you ever had to draw a line with someone who constantly put others before you? Tell me what you think. I really want to know.